Well, the sun is shining, the grass is growing, the snow is virtually gone, the road is almost completely dried out, not quite. I should be doing outside projects. I could be cutting firewood, I could be working on the new fence, I could be working on the new property over there. There's a million things I could be doing rather than drywall, but I'm doing drywall. Because if I stop doing drywall right now and I start some new project, my lovely wife may not let me back in the house. I've got to get the drywall done. Using the drywall lift takes a little bit of time to get used to, but on this particular project, it paid for itself on the very first day. While I've been working on the drywall in the shop, I try to keep a fire burning over at the new property. Once the drywall is done, the next step will be putting some sort of a texture on the drywall that doesn't look like I'm a plumber. But the trick is, I'm not going to spend the next 6 weeks sanding it down, putting it back on, sanding it down, putting it back on, until the ADD and the OCD in my veins call a truce. So as far as the texture out here in the shop is concerned, I'm going to do the same thing that I did in the house, which is somewhere between a Santa Fe texture and putting it on with a shovel. Smooth with imperfections, but not the imperfections that kids put on the walls. Imperfections with intent. That's what I like to call it. On the left-hand side of the shop, which is what we call the front of the shop, the majority of that shop is going to be covered by shelving that will hold the black and yellow boxes and my tools, so the finish doesn't have to be perfect. But that doesn't become an excuse to just tape it and paint it. I want it to look good enough that if and when we do remove those shelves at some point down the road, I don't have to retexture the entire wall. So now I'm completely out of drywall until the road dries out enough that I can get another 40 sheets. I'm about 40 sheets short. I may go get some tape and some mud and at least start taping this side. I got to keep moving forward so we can get the shelves built and start putting all of our stuff back in the shop. So hopefully another few days and I'll be able to drive through there. I learned to do drywall basically the same way that I learned to do everything else, and that is ignore the people in your life that actually know and figure it out on your own. My older brother and my father-in-law have both been drywall contractors, and of course, observing them and being around them over the years, I've picked up things here and there. But at some point, I realized both my brother and my father-in-law learned from somebody else, so I gave it a go myself. And if I ever had to hang drywall for a living, as long as it pays by the hour, I should be fine. Until I get fired for being so slow. I know that if I do my job right and finish the shop well, it's going to get used by the family on a very regular basis. But until I get all the drywall finished up, I can't move on to anything else. I'm going to spray the entire shop with a very durable white paint, and as you can see, it's not going to take long at all before it's going to get marked up. So whatever paint we use, I'm going to put on thick. The only way I know how to tape drywall is just to do it loose by hand as opposed to a banjo. But even by hand, it doesn't take that long. The trick is to get all the mud into all the right places and then to remove as much as you can. And then I'll put at least 2 more coats on top of that, trying to blend those seams into the wall. But this is one of those jobs that's going to help prevent bugs and insects from getting in. So I'm going to do it right. We had winds blow up our canyon at over 75 miles an hour last night. Very large, perfectly healthy, mature maple trees are snapped in half all over town. At the house, we didn't sustain any damage, but some of our neighbors did. Thank goodness no people or animals were hurt, but at moments, the house was literally shaking in ways that we'd never felt it shake before. The next morning, as I walked downstairs, I checked the drywall for cracks. Yes, that's how much the house moved. Thank goodness I didn't find any cracks, and I'm going to hope for the same on the shop too. The weather has been crazy all winter long, and now we're getting into spring. May is typically a pretty wet month for us up here, and the afternoon thunderstorms are showing up from time to time. But there's still a lot of water moving down the creeks, and the damage left over from this winter is still showing its face all around us. So I'm going to give you a list of projects that I feel like I have to get done this summer, starting with that bobtail propane tank. Until I get the bobtail propane tank tied into our system and the old tank relocated, and the gas line ran from this side of the property all the way over to the new location, until I get that done, I can't do a whole lot with the hill and all the dirt that we now have sitting where it's not supposed to be. Step 1 is going to be the bobtail propane tank, but step 2 is going to be the retaining wall behind our house and how we can best utilize that hill behind our house in our daily life. I'm also going to install all new fencing across the front of the property, tying the new property into the old property, which will give whatever animals we keep in that pasture at least 2 to 3 times more room to move around. Then the big pasture up on the hill, we're going to tie into the new property as well. But there's a whole lot of trees that have to be thinned in that process. And I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of other things that have to be dealt with first, but that's the plan of attack at the moment. So on our next video, I hope to have all of the drywall hung. And then as soon as we get the drywall textured figured out, we're going to spray the inside of the shop and start building shelves and start moving everything back inside. And that will be a glorious day, I promise. In the meantime, be safe out there, and thank you again for taking time to watch our videos.